Hi everybody, and welcome once again to Lost Genre, Am I the A-Hole? Complete A-Hole Edition. As I've done before, this video is only going to focus on people and posts that have deemed as A-Holes by the community. So let's begin. Just for some background, my family is a bit larger. We are all pretty healthy people, but we are not naturally thin. Both of my parents are bigger, I am a bit bigger, and growing up my sister was too. We are not obese, we are just a bit taller and a bit chubby, maybe a little bit overweight. We may not run and stuff, but we do other activities that we enjoy like gardening, swimming, walking, etc. You don't need to be able to run to be healthy. Now, my sister works hard to fight being a bigger. She eats like a rabbit and does pretty crazy workouts. People tend to look up to her for keeping her weight down and getting healthy, but from my perspective, she is constantly stressing herself out to maintain this appearance with all the running, etc. My daughter turned 14 a couple of months ago and has been expressing distaste about her body for a while. She's a bit chubby like myself. It makes me sad, but I'm trying to teach her to love herself for who she is. I know that my words haven't gotten through to her as she has been going to my sister for advice. First was the at-home exercises and running. It is difficult to watch her beat herself up with these exercises. She claims to enjoy them, but I'm sure she wouldn't do them if she didn't want to be skinny like my sister. Then she started regularly complaining about the food that I prepare. I am not a huge vegetable person, and neither is anyone else in our family. I'm not going to waste money on it. It has led to many arguments between us. The final straw was when I opened up a package that turned out to be a food scale for my daughter. My sister brought it for her. My daughter told me that since I will continue to make her eat unhealthy food, her aunt told her to weigh it so she doesn't eat too much. I immediately confronted my sister about it. She is trying to push her lifestyle habits onto my daughter. I am trying to teach her to love herself, not spend mental energy fighting biology. She tried to blame me for making my daughter unhealthy in the first place. She claims to be trying to help. Just because my daughter can't run a mile and do the difficult exercises she does to maintain her weight doesn't mean she's not healthy. I hung up with my sister and went to post to Facebook about her buying my young daughter a scale and encouraging her to weigh her food. People look up to her, and I think everyone should know that she pushes young women to hate their bodies. My post received a lot of criticism, and some people even think I'm a butthole for trying to tarnish my sister's image and for refusing to let my daughter try to lose weight. From my perspective, I'm just trying to spread awareness about what she's doing. Someone recommended that I post here. Am I the a-hole for telling everyone that my sister got my daughter a food scale, or is she for getting her one in the first place? I do think OP is the a-hole, but not about the scale thing. That's not the point here. The point is OP is trying to push her lifestyle, that sounds a little bit sedentary, onto her daughter. If the daughter isn't happy and thinks she'd be happy by losing weight, who is OP to stop her? You know? I mean, yeah, OP can say her piece, but in the end it's her daughter's choice. That's how it should be, at least in my opinion. But anyways, it's not about what I think. Let's take a look at what the community thinks. Ugly Duffelbag says, "You are the a-hole. Jesus Christ, prepare a vegetable. You are a mother. Act like a mother. Don't use your daughter's body to push an agenda that makes you feel better. Also, I don't buy it for a second that you guys are naturally chunky when you refuse to waste money on vegetables." On this, Gingerbread BR wants to add, "This, I cannot even imagine refusing to let a child eat vegetables. Also, running is not torture and it's not just to lose weight. I run because it gives me more energy and I like doing it. Millions of people do it as a hobby. Let her do healthy things. You are the a-hole." Baween says, "You don't get to weigh in. Your daughter is trying to improve her heart health, her mobility, and her quality of life. She is certainly being more mature about her weight issues than you are. I remember 150 pounds ago when I was not a vegetable person. It's a flabby excuse for rolling over and giving up on yourself. You should be happy your daughter isn't following in your footsteps. You're the a-hole." Yeah, one thing that kind of jumped at me when I was reading this was when OP said that just because her daughter can't run a mile. That's not like a major feat. I mean, kids run all day while they're playing, probably more than a mile. What do you guys think? Well, let's move on to the next post. My cousin, 30 male, is getting married to his girlfriend of 4 years, 29 female. The wedding will be in January 2021 and the invitations arrived 2 days ago. His girlfriend's family is very rich and formal, and the invitations reflected that. My husband and I, 27 female, received the invite in the mail and they were addressed to Mr. and Mrs. John Smith. I was livid because they totally erased my name and my identity by referring to me as an extension of my husband. My husband thought it was old-fashioned, but he didn't think it was offensive. I called my cousin yesterday night and told him that I will not be attending because of the wording on the invitation. I said, technically, he didn't even invite me because he never even wrote my own name on the invitation. I mean, I go by my maiden name and I never took my husband's last name when we married. My cousin apologized, said his girlfriend and her family were mainly responsible for the wedding planning, including the invitations, and he said they didn't know they were addressed like that. He said others received their invites a few days ago and nobody has complained about them so far. I told him that's no excuse for the blatant sexism on his invites and that we will not be attending. My mother thinks I'm overreacting. She said my aunt is very upset at me and says I'm being a drama queen. Am I the a-hole for declining my cousin's wedding invitation due to the sexist wording on the invitation? I don't wish to offend anyone, but I think she is. I agree that working towards equality is something that we need to try to do every day. Having said that, is really wedding invitation naming one of those top things that we really need to be focusing on in this equality struggle? But let's see what the community says. Heather Hobbit says, "You are the a-hole. I'm a feminist, but I think you're choosing the wrong battle here and being a little petty. They address the invitations in a formal and traditional way. It's not really setting feminism back in any way. Don't be petty. If your cousin is important to you, you should go." To which Abad Food Friend replies, "I'm also a feminist and dislike this naming convention. I would see it and absolutely, at the very least, raise my eyebrows at it. And depending if I had a close relationship with the cousin, I would bring it up to them and tell them that it is offensive and upsetting. Saying that, I'd still go to the wedding. I'd still be chummy with the family. People do offensive stuff all the time out of ignorance. It's when people are aware of that impact and don't care that it becomes an issue. But in this case, the cousin had no idea they used this convention, and the bride likely didn't know that OP had kept her maiden name. A compassionate and educational voice goes much further than insults, ego, and aggression. You're the a-hole." And finally, Kelly Dove C says, "You're the a-hole. That is the traditional and formal way to address a wedding invitation. Perhaps it is outdated, but do you really want to offend your family by choosing such a petty hill to die on? In 10 years, will you really care how they address the envelope or that you missed the wedding of a family member?" So now I turn to you guys. What do you think? Is OP an a-hole? Alright, let's move on to the third post. I feel really guilty for doing this. I have an excellent relationship with my daughters. One of them has been at home since spring break due to university shutting down. She's been using the Tinder app to flirt with local guys. She shows me their profiles sometimes so we can share a giggle or laugh at some of the more ridiculous ones. One of the things that I still cannot quite get comfortable with is that she has a thing for older men. So her matches range in age from 20s to 40s. She knows I'm uncomfortable with it and in fact shows me her older matches sometimes just to needle me in jest. Yesterday she showed me one of the older guys she's been teasing. I was ready to have a laugh with her until I saw his face. He, Joe, was my high school fling with whom I had a complicated relationship. It's only a relationship that my now deceased parents and ex-husband know about. It's a secret I'm resolute in bringing to the grave with me. Freshman year in college, when we both turned 18, we went on a road trip to Las Vegas where we got married at one of those wedding chapels. Around the same time, I got pregnant. My parents were rightly livid. When I told Joe about the pregnancy, he freaked out because he wasn't ready to be a parent. Truthfully, neither was I. My parents helped us get an annulment. This was time before social media, so it was a lot easier for me to take a year off from college to travel the world. I had the baby whom I gave up for adoption. Joe also disappeared from my life promptly after the annulment. During that time, I met a very nice man from a fellowship group who, despite my messy history and pregnancy, accepted me for who I am. A year after the adoption, recovery, and self-discovery, we married and had my now beautiful daughters. I have completely forgotten about Joe. I tried looking him up. The only thing I could find was another guy with his same name on LinkedIn, but it wasn't him. Desperate, I decided to break into my daughter's phone while she was sleeping. I only wanted his contact information. I read her messages with him to see if they exchanged phone or email. Luckily, and also unfortunately, they haven't met, but he was coming on very strong. The same guy I knew. My daughter explained to me that unmatching someone permanently cancels him, so I sent him a message from her Tinder telling him to stay the hell away from my daughter because she is the half-sibling to his own offspring out there. And then I unmatched him. This morning, my daughter was upset that a guy had cancelled her because she's the one who usually does the ghosting. I reached out to my ex-husband, haven't for ages, to ask for advice. He strongly believes I should have been honest with our daughter, but he and I will bring this secret with us to the grave, I reminded him. He suggested I keep looking for Joe to make sure he got the message. I will do that. Sorry for the long story. I'm rambling a bit because I'm distressed. Am I the a-hole for breaking into my daughter's phone and deleting her Tinder match? Whoa, okay, I was not at all expecting that. Were you guys expecting something like that? That took us places, didn't it? I totally get OP trying to protect her daughter from dating her former fling. I mean, would you imagine if they go out on a date and he picks her up and she says, "Hey, you want to meet my mom before we leave?" That would be awkward. But I still think the husband's right. So now let's go and take a look at what the community says. Starfish Paws says, "You're the a-hole, but it's not too late to fix it. Honestly, talk to your daughter. If it helps, think of it as sharing your story to help her avoid making similar mistakes. She'll still make mistakes because everyone does, but they'll be different ones. And maybe it's time to give yourself a break for something you did when you were very young." That's solid advice. And then Sigyn Wren wants to say, "You're the a-hole. If your daughter is an adult, like you've said, then she's mature enough to hear about your past with Joe. I get that you don't want anyone to know about it, but I think you need to explain it to your daughter. If you don't give her a good reason as to why you broke into her phone, you have now given her ample reasons to never trust you again. And to be honest, your kids should be told about their half-sibling before said sibling comes knocking on the door." That's true. Even though the odds are very low, imagine that one of the daughters takes an ancestry DNA test and this other child also takes an ancestry DNA test. If they both choose the option to find relatives, then that's gonna blow up in your face. Still, extremely low odds. Okay, let's move on to the next post. I am truly hoping that this will be a not an a-hole situation, but I fear there is a very really real possibility that I am the a-hole. Therefore, I am asking the public to weigh in. I, 34 female, found out about 7 months ago that I have breast cancer. No family history, no pre-existing conditions, no concerns about breast cancer until I happened upon a lump during a routine self-exam. I immediately showed my husband, 39 male, the lump, and I made an appointment with my primary care physician, who then referred me to an oncologist, and long story short, I have stage 3 breast cancer and roughly 5+ years to live. After taking some time to seek out a counselor and join a support group and accept my prognosis, my husband and I notified our families, who were understandably devastated. Our families, both of our parents, are still together and each of us have a brother. They immediately began asking us about treatment plans regarding chemo and radiation, and my husband and I explained that I plan on pursuing any and all treatment options regardless of physical, mental, and financial costs. Our families were quickly put at ease, and later on during the evening, my mother and mother-in-law, who is actually a breast cancer survivor, pulled me aside and asked about my and my husband's plans for potential children. My husband and I actually had plans to begin trying to conceive children at the beginning of this year, and obviously things have been put on hold. Both my mother and mother-in-law suggested possibly trying for a baby before my treatments begin. I never began my treatments due to the current world events. My doctor did not want to lower my immune system in the midst of what's going on. and I actually agree with their wisdom. If I have 5+ years to live, then I will have plenty of time to birth and bond with a baby, and if, gosh forbid, I leave this planet in around 5 years, then I will leave my child in the all too capable hands of my husband and with the support of our families. My husband is less than on board with this idea. He hates the idea of conceiving a child while my life has an expiration date. However, don't all lives have an expiration date? And he does not want to be a single dad, although I have discussed with him at length that if I do die before him, I want him to grieve and then date and find another partner. Although I understand his position, I can't fathom the idea of dying before I give birth and meet my future child. I simply cannot face death knowing that huge part of my life will go unanswered. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for wanting to get pregnant even though I have cancer? This is a very difficult one to answer. First of all, I want to say I'm really sorry for OP. Going through breast cancer, going through any cancer is a horrible experience, and I do wish that she beats it even though the odds are a little bit stacked against her. Having said that, and to answer her question, I do think she's the a-hole, and not for wanting to have kids. To make my point, I'm going to go ahead and read 2 community comments that actually state exactly how I think and feel. I am sorry little one says, "You're the a-hole. I am sorry about your cancer, but it sounds like you clearly see your baby as a toy to yourself so you can have fun time with your baby until you passed away. Your baby is a human on its own. You are planning another human being to be motherless at the age of 3 or 4. Think about it for a minute. Your husband is right and you are selfish to even think about that. These are not the words you wanted to see, but it's harsh truth." And then that high-class bitch says, "I am sorry, but I wanna give a very gentle you are the a-hole. You're being, understandably, selfish, but you're setting your child up for the trauma of losing their mother at a young age. That's just incredibly unfair. And that's the only point I have against her having a baby. It sucks that she might not be able to be a mother, but bringing a child, knowing that you have a really high chance of dying and that that child will grow up motherless from some point on, that's just a big psychological and emotional trauma that that person will have to go through. And I don't think it's fair for OP to bring a child into this world just because it's an experience that she has to have. It is not an easy topic, so why don't you guys give me your opinion? On that note, let's move on to the final post. The other day, I commissioned an artist to draw my character. I paid $60 for the full body shaded, which is a bit pricey for me, but I assumed maybe this artist takes a long time, like 6-7 hours, which is why they priced it like that, so I understood why. They sent me a sketch not long after I paid and I approved it expecting to wait a while for the finished art. Well, what ended up happening is that they sent me the finished artwork early in the next day and I was like, that was fast. The artist said they work quick and plus I got in early on their queue. Out of curiosity, I asked them how long it actually took them for the drawing and they said just under 2 hours. I know what you'd may be thinking, that I should be happy. I got the fast service, but hear me out. I felt a little bit scammed because I paid $60 only because I thought this artist probably takes a lot of time, so it is worth it to pay a high price for it. But they didn't even draw for a full 2 hours. I asked the artist if I could have a partial refund, maybe because it clearly did not take that long. They told me straight up no and seemed kinda annoyed with me. I don't know, I just feel like the price wasn't justified. I talked to my friends and like half of them said they understood and the other half said it was a D move even just for asking. But to be fair, the ones that I said it was a D move were also artists, so they are biased. Am I the a-hole for being upset I got my art too fast? Yes, you are. What's the artist supposed to do to make you feel better? Do the art like he knows how to do it with the quality that apparently you're happy with and just leave it there waiting for a couple of hours to make you feel like they worked on it for a long time so that it justifies the $60? That's not what you paid for. You paid for art that you like and you liked it, not for how long it took. Let's take a quick look at the community comments now. Rogue's Gambit says, "You're the a-hole. I would have laughed if you've messaged me for a refund. Shocking, this is some r/choosing beggars type stuff. Totally choosing beggars. Then Pecan0 says, "You're the a-hole. If the art is good, then why does it matter how long it took?" That's my point. Longer times doesn't mean better quality. Exactly. And then Karinina says, "You're the a-hole. You don't only pay for the actual time it took someone to finish the painting, but also for their experience, which is why the hourly wage of some artists is higher than others. Plus, if you paid $60 and are happy with the end result, it should not matter how much time it took them to finish the painting or drawing. You pay for the end result, not the time." Exactly, that's also kind of my point. So yeah, OP, you're an a-hole for asking for a refund or for expecting your artwork to take longer. That's just weird. Anyways, that is the end of this video. I really hope you liked it. I hope you liked the selection of a-holes I picked for you guys. And if you did, go ahead and click like. If you like these videos and the content and haven't subscribed, go ahead and click subscribe and become a part of this growing community. So having said that, I will see you guys on the next video.